sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Oh yes. How's everybody? Hey Vanessa. Welcome.
A chat with you and somehow death loses its sting. Shut up and never say anything again as long as you live.
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused.
To be moral, to be moronical, an imbecile.
Bring out kiddies!
I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody who wants to walk, do it now.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
It's good to be the king.
I'm your huckleberry.
Groovy.
Well, it's a well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world, known as the Pentaverate, who run everything in the world, including the newspapers, and meet tri-annually at a secret country mansion in Colorado known as
Thank you.
the Meadows.
So who's in this Pentaverate?
The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.
I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Leon's getting larger. Beef jerky?
No, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible.
Oh.
Sorry, I farted.
Listen, Betty, don't start up with your white zone shit again.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
Just the facts, ma'am.
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank what?
He thinks I made it up.
Unbelievable.
Would you classify that as a launch problem or a design problem?
All right. Stop right there, and I'll bring back the sun.
Who wants some? Who's next?
Hi. Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome. Good to see you. How are you? I'm currently uploading my Sexy Liberal segment for tomorrow, and it's the computer's doing it in the background, so I'm doing this at the same time while that's happening. So if my computer bursts into flames or starts smoking, or I have to leave in the middle of this, understand that that's why. Or like if my screen freezes, and I'm kidding, that there will definitely be, yeah, it's a lot. So my segment this time is about 5 minutes longer than last time, and it was a lot of shooting and a lot of editing and a lot of FX and stuff. So yeah, crazy. And who was that right out of the gate that just before we even got rolling? Thank you, Twitty, for the super chat. That's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, rendering is a monster, and I had this one thing, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this in your green screen editing stuff, where I was rendering it out, and the render was pixelated, but the version that was on the screen looked fine. I don't know why the end result, oh God. Madness. Twitty, thank you. Well, welcome. Glad to have you here. Yeah. So, like I said, today won't be as long as normal anyways. This video is, it's from a day ago, but we didn't get to cover it, and it's particularly ridiculous and needs to, and it sort of ties to the whole thing about like them grabbing people off the streets in Portland without any markings on their outfits. First of all, there's a lot to this. Not the least of which is Portland has had a rash of it's a good place to get a rash. Also, don't ask me how I know that, but Portland has had a rash of vandalism and arson specifically, where they're burning buildings or attempting to burn buildings, and most of them are courthouses and federal buildings. And it's not, people who are, let's just say, genuine George Floyd sympathizers. It's opportunistic nonsense. But keep in mind that, you don't know until you've interviewed the people what their reasoning is, even if it is or isn't real. That's the tough part about it. And a lot of what you're seeing too, video-wise, coming out of there, where they're grabbing these folks, and I'll get to my objection in a second specifically, a lot of what you're seeing is them grabbing some person and everybody around them just starting to film as the guys are walking up. They're not showing that that person was a block and a half ago walking away from a fire or something that they did. So you're not seeing any of that part of it. So the overreaction isn't with these people being grabbed per se. It's the no labels, no ID, rent-a-car thing that's weird about it. Honestly, if police officers were rolling up in black and whites, picking these folks up, they would run and they may not ever catch them. And they've got a system in place where they can dodge and whatever. So cops in unmarked cars, also fine. But those guys have ID. These are federal, largely Homeland Security, or I think somebody said that they were literally Border Patrol folks, because this is the Trump White House is using basically the Patriot Act and terrorism law to snatch these folks up. So when you grab terrorists, you don't have to show ID and do all this stuff. It's the expansion of a Guantanamo state is what Trump is really excited about doing right now, and he thinks it's a win. And there's two problems with this. One is we don't let the military patrol the streets of the United States. It's part of our Constitution. So there's a tipping point wherein law enforcement become too militaristic, and it's a violation of the Constitution on its face. So a bunch of these folks, you're going to see a lot of people who are arrested for this stuff, if indeed charges are pressed or they have the means and wherewithal, filing, unconstitutional charges against them. Because being detained and read your rights after the fact and all that kind of stuff, there's so much slippery room, and that's one of the issues with the Patriot Act. But, and Malcolm Nance brought this part up, and how do you know they are official? This is the primary issue, because if there's dozens of morons in Portland walking around in fatigues and combat gear that they bought off of Amazon. They're not official. They're not anything. And if you don't have an official car or an official badge or some level where that officialness is on display in a civil society, at some point, these guys are gonna the soldiers and the Border Patrol guys and the DHS dudes who are being sent in to do this stuff are gonna get killed. Somebody's gonna open fire on them, and now the person who opens fire on them is gonna die. But that person, whether if let's say they're wounded and they survive, that person will have a case against the state that they believed themselves to be in danger of being kidnapped, not because they weren't doing something sketchy, but that there are Antifa or counter-protesters or Proud Boy types or white supremacists or whatever who have all the same gear, all the same outfits. So protecting yourself against them has none of the same basic delineations that you have when you were being when FBI or the police or somebody who shows you ID comes up on you. And it is not the same as infiltrating undercover in a criminal enterprise. These are logical, necessary aspects of law enforcement. Anybody who tells you different lives in some sort of fantasy land or is currently engaged in deep, vicious criminal activities. Again, this is the Trump administration's problem with their calls being listened to, and it's because the only guy who doesn't joke about a body in the trunk of their car is a guy with a body in the trunk of their car, is the idea. So this is the most crucial, dangerous, scary, worrisome aspect of this to me, is that these soldiers and these Border Patrol people who are being sent in on orders, picking up these guys, by the way, many of whom are guilty as shit. Let's not kid ourselves. They're walking past, if you even see the videos online, 4 or 5 other protesters to grab one particular person. And it's all right as whoever that group is leaving a place. And that individual, more than likely, they have them on video, they are picking them up specifically, and they're going to try them on terrorism charges for trying to set fire to a federal building. And they're going to succeed. That charge will stick. Those people will go to jail. It's somewhere like 15 to 25 years for that kind of arson. This is not a joke. Like, there's a bunch of these young folks who think they're part of some big sovereign citizen movement, or they think they're making some sort of change by setting fire to a federal building. The charges are dead serious. The issue isn't law enforcement busting someone for arson, because if you'll notice, federal buildings tend to be, even in Portland, connected to other buildings with people living in them. And arson is a bit of a problem. The problem is the guys coming out of these minivans wearing full camo, face coverings, helmets, everything, no true identification, no legit identification that you could film or anything like that. Like even having an officer's number that's a temporary one assigned for a closed court would be a legally binding and valuable thing to have, so that cops can't be doxxed by people who are going to attack them later on. People in undercover dealing with organized crime had the same kind of issue. So it's not surprising that some of the Antifa and hyper right-wing folks in Portland, who are kind of strange bedfellows in this situation, put everybody in, well, you have to find a way, though, to legitimize the people walking the street, is my point. Or you are simply endangering both those officers and the people around them. Because the officers will come up, they're on official business, but they are not in any way identifiable as official. And an individual walks up to me wearing combat fatigues with a friend of his and tries to put me in a van, I'm not going. Because this is not Russia. That's not how this stuff works. And the issue with this is that if somebody resists and ends up harming one of these officers who are being ordered to do these particular raids and grabs, it's just it's absurd. There's a phrase, I think some of you know that, like, I learned it from Spies Like Us. It's the only Russian phrase I know. It's "Chmenchesnaya tabluche," and it means the less, and I'm sure I'm mangling it, but it means the less you know, the better off you are. And they used to use that phrase whenever somebody would be nabbed and thrown into a black car and driven away. And it happened all the time. I mean, Putin just raided Alexei Navalny's campaign offices and basically destroyed all of his computers again for the 7th time in the last 2 years. And you know Trump is jealous of this. So he's dumped Brad Parscale. He's elevated some other nincompoop. And they're going to be doing what they think is a full court press of militaristic, domineering, law and order power plays. And I can tell you a lot of black folks will not be willing to go quietly with no marking nuts. Can't stop lying. Why would they? Seriously. And by the way, not all the cops obviously in these situations are white themselves. Don't kid yourself. But in, you know, if somebody comes up and you can't really, you know, you're dealing with this. This is what you're seeing of the human being that's approaching you, and they have no visible markings on their clothing that give them any official reason why you should have to go with them, and they're not speaking, and they're not reading you your rights or addressing you in any way. You know, and without, and it is one thing where I don't know, a lot of these videos may be still on federal grounds. That might be what they're waiting for. Like, we don't know geographically where these folks are. So there's people walking around and we just see these guys run up and snatch them up. One of the dudes who just got busted by these same people tried to hit one of them in the head with a hammer, which you don't do. And granted, they were all, you know, all the agents were all together in a group coming out of a door, and he was holding the door, and then he tried to strike one of them. Yeah, they're gonna get you, right? But he was also on federal ground. So it may be that some of these people that we're seeing grabbed are on, they're waiting for them to step on the federal part of the sidewalk before they go up and get them. So it doesn't matter what the color the officer is. Learned that long ago. Bad is bad, good is good. Absolutely. And I'm, like I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with the soldiers and the folks that are having to do this. Let's see. So sorry, they're asking me questions about the upload. And so, yeah, I've got to send it, so I may bail out. But here we go. It's still uploading right now, currently. Good times. All right. Yeah, again, Beverly Brown makes a great point. The secondary danger. If you want to kidnap people, now you have cover. All you need is the proper camo. And who's going to know the difference? This is why badges. This is why things like badges and patches and uniforms matter. I mean, yeah. So here we go. This is Trump attempting to do his tough guy image.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's nice to be here. No, it isn't.
We have a very important announcement, and we're going to state some facts and things that have happened recently that are very positive in terms of crime and crime.
Very positive in terms of crime.
Prevention. This is about...
That is Murphy. Murphy, are you having a conniption? Yeah. That's okay.
MS-13, and we'll have another announcement next week. The Attorney General, the FBI, and others concerning our cities, because the left-wing group of people that are running our cities are not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, and it's not a very tough job to do if they...
Well, this is the only reason... Hi, Murph. I know. The cat, I swear to God. The only reason he thinks this isn't a tough job to do is because he doesn't care if he kills U.S. citizens extrajudicially. Like, he looks at this like it's Russia. He thinks it's really easy because he's looking at countries that don't have any of the same laws and protections that make our country better. One of the reasons why we have a great country is the fact that the federal government can't extrajudicially snatch you off the street.
knew what they were doing. So we'll.
So, I mean, are there Americans clamoring for us to sort of deal with COVID like the Chinese did and weld people into their apartments where people are jumping off their balconies to escape? I mean, do we want just a nationalization of Guantanamo? And by the way, all you progressive hyper lefties who are like, maybe Trump will finally close Guantanamo. Right. Obama tried what, 6 times, and who ran interference? Republicans. But please, by all means, Jill Stein your way into oblivion the next time around.
Talking about that next week and probably have an announcement as to what we're planning to do to help them. They're supposed to be asking for help, and they don't want to ask, so maybe they're proud or maybe they think it's bad politically, but we can't have happen what's happening.
No, their worry is if they ask you for help, you will send in unmarked, unverifiable military-esque forces to snatch people off the street.
But we're here today to provide an update on my administration's all-out campaign to destroy MS-13,
Oh my God. And this is, I swear to God, this is him trying to go back to his winning issue that got him elected, which is they're bringing crime, they're rapists, they're murderers, and some I assume are nice people. That whole thing, that the porous border idea is he's gonna try to use that as a scare tactic, which a functioning legal immigration system that respects asylum seekers is not an open border. But he's going to try and push that, well, if you just let these folks in, it's just going to be MS-13. And MS-13, by the way, they're a vicious gang. But there's lots of vicious gangs both in the United States and throughout the world. Mitch McConnell's doing business with the Triad, allegedly. So please tell me how, like, they deserve more than any other gang. I mean, especially if you're talking about, like, the violence in Chicago. That's not MS-13. Baltimore, the spike in New York crime, that's not MS-13. They just sound really scary, and they sound like a prison gang. And that's it. What he's trying to, this is the scare the suburbs into voting Republican. There's a line in Deep Cover about this cop who wants to, he needs an arrest. He's on the take. He's a bad cop. He's on the take, and he asks this drug dealer, like, I need some arrests. You got to throw me somebody. And there's a line in it. He goes, I need some dark faces so they can scare the suburbs into voting Republican. That's the line. By the way, Deep Cover, Lawrence Fishburne, Jeff Goldblum, one of my favorite movies. The poetry that Lawrence Fishburne does throughout, amazing. So, but this is that same game plan. This is, yeah. Well, MS-13 is sort of a disgusting low rent gang of all the gangs that are out there. It's kind of like a white trash meth biker gang, which, by the way, they hack people up and burn them alive and, kill people for moving in on their meth territory. That's what their saddlebags are for on their bikes. But Trump likes bikers and boaters, even though, a third of the boaters that are out in the Keys rolling around with their Trump flags on it would help deliver kilos from a boat out in international waters to shore if it'd make them a penny. So, good Lord.
Evil gang of people. We've just concluded
evil gang of people.
A historic operation leading to the arrest and indictment of dozens of savage MS-13 members and leaders all across the country. So this is something that's taken place over the last few days. I want to.
Yeah, well, the last few days. So we got 3.5 years into the Trump presidency. We're in the middle of a pandemic. There is an unprecedented economic crisis. There's literally, we are on the verge of a bank crash following this because of the people who, once the CARES Act funds run out, aren't going to be able to make rent or mortgage. And this asshole thinks this is the best news. You know what this is? You know what he's announcing right here? You know what this part is? This is just your job. This is it. Of course, go get people like MS-13. Of course the DOJ is supposed to break up drug gangs and violent gangs. Of course. So what? You don't get extra points for doing the normal procedure of law enforcement.
Thank Attorney General Barr for doing a great job in many...
All right. Looking something up real quick. Let's see. All right, here we go.
Many ways, not just here. Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Wolf and FBI Director Wray for joining us today, and we'll be discussing a little bit about what we did and where we're going. But MS-13 has been a problem for our country for a long time. We've taken them out by the thousands. Well, radical left-wing politicians...
Yeah, and they always make new people. That's what gangs do.
...have fought to open borders and welfare...
Joe Biden's going to buy ice cream for MS-13, though. Yeah, that's the plan.
For illegal aliens, my administration...
Joe Biden is in MS-13. He doesn't even know he's got a neck tattoo. Somebody didn't tell him.
...has fought for safe streets. We want security for our people. We want the rule of law. We want law and order. In the last 3 years, ICE has deported over 16,000 gang members and arrested over 2,000 members of MS-13. Think of...
So, right, 16,000 gang members have been deported. 2,000 of them were MS-13. What about the other 14,000? Were they unaffiliated gang members? Are they just all lonely gang members?
Those numbers, 16,000, and arrested over 2,000 members of MS-13.
Right. 14,000 of the gang members deported were not MS-13. Were they all like smaller 5-person gang members of tiny one?
We've also deported a lot of the MS-13s out of...
Yeah, you just said how many? 2,000.
...country. This week's actions by the Joint Task Force...
So, okay, so we're arresting 2,000 of them. Wait a second. Because if you're arresting them and deporting some...
13s out of our... We've also deported a lot of...
Hold on.
1,000 and arrested over 2,000 members of MS-13.
So those are... Okay, so those aren't the deported ones. They've arrested those, which means more than likely they are citizens. If you're deporting the non-citizen members of MS-13, you're arresting the other gang members, which means you're arresting 14,000 other gang members that are Americans as well.
We've also deported a lot of the MS-13s out of our country.
Yes, the Apple Dumpling Gang.
So true. The Apple Dumpling Gang have come for our apples and our dumpling. American apple pie, they hate our flag.
This week's actions by the Joint Task Force Vulcan is...
Sometimes the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one or the few.
That animal spunk.
They
killed my son. I don't understand.
Offense to... This has been a big offensive...
Yes. Well, if anybody knows offensive...
My administration's war on foreign gangs, of which...
We have a war on foreign gangs. Well, if it goes like all the other wars that we declare on things like poverty and drugs, there will be foreign gangs on every street corner.
We came into this...
Since the war on poverty was declared, poverty went up. Since the war on terror, there have been more terrorist acts on American soil. Since there was a war on homelessness, it went up. War on drugs. Everything we declare war of, there's more of it. perhaps war is not the kind of metaphor that works in these circumstances. War may have its place, but if you're... All right.
Administration, and we said, what's going on?
I believe that you said that.
We had gangs from countries that you wouldn't believe.
Why wouldn't I believe it? Friggin' Irish. What do you mean gangs from Belgians? I would not believe. Norwegians, that's what it was. If we have Norwegian gang members, I would not believe it. What's another country you wouldn't believe? Because I believe most South American countries have issues. If you said there's Guatemalans up here who are in gangs, I go, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Canadian gangs, that'd be fairly hilarious. Bunch of Quebecois dudes going on. We're moving in on this territory.
More than 20 of
Flemish gangs getting snot all over everything.
Criminals we indicted and arrested in the past.
Luxembourg. The Swiss gangs have all moved in there. It's very important to whatever. We've come in here and we're enforcing. We come into your store and you have to pay us protection or we'll make you wear slacks that taper so much your ankles will hurt.
7 days were illegal aliens. Yesterday, for the first time ever, the Eastern District of Virginia, thank you very much, indicted MS-13 leaders on charges of terrorism. So we have the MS-13 leader on charges of terrorism.
Yeah, that's what the paper said. Did you just figure that out?
And that's first, is that correct? Yes,
well, did he use terrorist tactics? Did he venture outside of it and move into territory beyond that? Or are you saying that now it qualifies that anybody who's trying to terrorize a community, that's under the wide... Okay.
Terrorism, which gives us extra strength.
Yes, it's more absorbent as well. And it doesn't tear, and the quilted kind.
New York and Nevada, 21 MS-13 members and leaders have been indicted on charges including murder, kidnapping, and drug trafficking.
Yeah, sounds like a gang.
The DOJ has also...
You're supposed to get them.
...announced that it will seek the death penalty for a bloodthirsty MS-13 leader responsible for the despicable killing of 7 Americans, including 2 teenage girls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me guess. An American.
Over the past few days, the DOJ and DHS have made several arrests at high levels in these cases, including several immigration arrests. And I want to thank
immigration arrests. We're importing people to arrest now?
Chad Wolf for working along with the FBI and with the Attorney General. They've worked very closely together at the border. And the border, as you know, is setting new records for allowing people in that are allowed to come in, allowing people in illegally.
The numbers of people coming in are up from being down and down from being up, as well as we're setting records for... Dude can't even...
We believe the monsters who murder children should be put to death. We seem to have quite a good agreement
James.
on that. These people...
I like his pose better with that deconstructed taco bowl. Oh, you mean the one on Cinco de Mayo that he did from his office at Trump Tower where they had 4 boxes of green Sudafed in the drawer, the kind you crush up and snort because it's still got the meth chemical in it. It's like pseudoephedrine or ephedrine. I don't do drugs, so I don't know. One of you drug addicts can tell me. But he snorts it instead of when he can't get meth, I guess.
Murder children, and they do it as slowly and viciously as possible. We will not allow these animals to terrorize our communities, and my administration will not rest.
Dude, there is punctuation on that page, right?
Until every member of MS-13 is brought to justice. We've done a great job with MS-13, but now we're...
If I do say so myself.
Stepping it up even to a higher level. This has never happened before.
What, do you think anybody was holding back? Like, no. Let him go. This one's got spirit. You think law enforcement before were just like watching MS-13 gang member chew his foot off and go and run off into the forest?
There hasn't been any move like this before. Much of it's already taken place, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it. So when Biden and the radical left...
Oh my God, Biden's going to let them go.
He wants to give them a foot massage.
Open borders for MS-13 and others. We want strong borders. We want, as I've said, we want borders. Without borders, you don't have a country, and we have a great country, and it's coming back stronger than ever, from job numbers to every other number. It's coming back stronger than ever before. So we're going to have a great third quarter. We're going to have a great fourth quarter, and next year is going to be one of the strongest years.
Thank you for digressing. By the way, there's no evidence that this is the case. Whatever, Wall Street is flipping out. A lot of them are going for Biden just for the stability.
Economically,
thanks, Brendan.
We've ever had. So I'm going to ask AG Barr.
And by the way, MS-13 started in the 80s. Okay? And so if you're going to lay it at the foot of, like, immigration was too loose, maybe you could lay it at the feet of Reagan's amnesty program, but I seriously doubt it. A lot of them just kind of snuck in. But it was started by first-generation people from Mexico and El Salvador, mainly El Salvador. Since then, a lot of the people who are in it have grown up in it. They're Americans. They've been Americans. A lot of the people who get killed, where he's like, horrible, they cut people up, are Americans of El Salvadoran descent who are trying to not be in MS-13, but they can't escape, and they get killed.
Say a few words about the MS-13 and what we've done and what we're doing and where we plan to go. And next week we're going to have, I think, a very exciting news conference, because we're going to be talking about some of these cities where the Democrats...
It's going to be so exciting. We're going to have fireworks, and I'm going to make balloon animals. I have a magic trick I've been working on with my belly.
Lost control.
I draw lips on it, and then I can make it talk.
All of the cities, so that'll be very interesting. Bill, please.
When I came into the department as Attorney General, the President made it clear that one of
brown crime is worse than white crime, no matter who gets killed.
his top priorities to reduce violent crime in the United States was to destroy MS-13 in the United States. And what we've been in here discussing with the President is part of that effort, which is Project Vulcan, or Task Force Vulcan, which is targeting the higher level players in the MS-13
So are you trying to make the MS-13 leadership live long and prosper?
operations in the United States. MS-13 is somewhat unique in this sense. They have the street savagery that you would see in a gang.
So is this a stock meeting on, like, I was in MS-13 until the bottom fell out, and now I'm selling.
It is not driven by commercial interests the way, for example, the mafia traditionally was. It's about honor of being the most savage, bloodthirsty person you can be, and building up a reputation as a killer. So this...
Yeah, they compete with biker gangs and white supremacists. They have the exact same thing.
In some ways is a death cult, and then they use the terror that they cause.
No, it isn't. Everybody in the death cult wants to die. They would be, in your parlance, a murder cult.
Their savagery to extort, and they've gotten increasingly into human...
Why would you extort people if you're in a death cult and everyone's going to die?
Trafficking, and now narcotics trafficking. But that's a sidelight.
So they're a gang business. Like, this is ridiculous.
To some extent. To
we
their
know.
Basic purpose, which is...
Bust them. Right. So what?
Violence. Terrorizing people.
What is Trump doing with his fingers?
Also, unlike a street gang, they're highly organized as a transnational organization.
Well, then they're not a street gang. They're an international mafia. They just have, what do they just up the level of... Has anybody seen Goodfellas?
They operate with hierarchy, with programs. They call them programs. Think of it as a crime family, essentially. And
yeah, that's what it is. It's how gangs work.
Under each program, they have different cliques.
If they didn't work like this, no one would give a shit. They would have been wiped out a long time ago.
They have programs and cliques operating in the United States. Well,
the leader is incredibly vicious, does not care about anybody. As far as he's concerned, anybody can die as long as the money keeps rolling in. Terrible. His sons run the organization, but he really pulls the strings. His sons are vicious but stupid. The daughter is really the scorpion lady. She runs everything. He married her off to another crime family, the brother of which of his son-in-law had hired a hooker to get him thrown in jail. Terrible
The center
people.
of gravity is in Central America. There are thousands that have come into the United States illegally. They're virtually all illegal aliens.
No, they're not.
They come in now
through Texas.
Although it's harder to get across the border, but traditionally they've come across the border into Houston and then fanned out across the United States into different centers of activity.
You mean big cities where there's lots of money?
Today we were talking with the president about 3 actions we took.
Eeny, meeny, and miny. Next is Mo.
Diaz was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia. First time we've used terrorism charges against a member of MS-13.
Okay, so either he did something that qualifies as terrorism, or you're ratcheting up what it means to be a terrorist so that you can catch him because you've been ineffective at busting him at other shit.
He was responsible for activities in 13 states, 20 cliques in the United States. He was
thoughts on Joe Rogan moving to Texas? Considering the area he lives in LA is constantly on fire, that's not surprising at all. He can have Alex Jones's old house.
Also the person who would greenlight assassinations in the United States. The orders come from El Salvador, or the request to assassinate people go down to El Salvador, and he would greenlight the hit.
Do they fax them, or are they still using beepers like the 90s? Carrier pigeon? So let me get this straight. So there's vicious, savage death cult that has a bureaucracy.
We also took down, this was an HSI case in Las Vegas. We took down the Hollywood
clique. You just said what it was.
Operated not only in Nevada, but also in California and in the Eastern District of New York. Again,
yeah, we got them all. They were all getting COVID tested, and we put in free COVID testing for El Salvadoran gang members, and they all showed up.
And we took down 21 members and the leadership of that organization. And then finally, these are the New York indictees. And then finally, I announced that we are going to seek the death penalty against Alexei Sayans, who is a leader in the Eastern District of New York, a leader of MS-13 there. The president made a trip to Brentwood, New York earlier in his administration, and he met with the families of victims that had been killed by MS-13, including the family of 2 young girls who were butchered with machetes. And the person that we are seeking the death penalty against was involved in those murders, as well as the murder of 2 African Americans who they just saw on the street and thought they were from a rival gang and just butchered. So those are the actions we're taking. There's more coming as we can.
Yeah, and yes, it's horrible. Ted Bundy also murdered people. You don't get a pat on the back for catching and busting Ted Bundy. You're supposed to do this shit.
Target the leadership of MS-13. We're working very closely with the El Salvadorians on this. They've been very cooperative, and we have the HSI and the FBI with operations down in El Salvador.
In past administrations, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala did not cooperate with the United States at all. They wouldn't let us bring people back. And under this administration, a long time ago, almost I would say my second or third day, I said, that's not going to work. They'd bring them back and they'd say, get them out of here, we're not taking them.
What do you think he did? Did they just fly in circles till they ran out of gas and the planes just fell out of the air?
They don't say
They drive down in a bus?
that anymore. They don't even come close to saying that anymore. So the operation is going to be very good. This is probably the meanest, worst gang anywhere in the world, the MS-13 group. And a big dent is put in them. It took place over the last few days and really over the last year. Heavy focus on MS-13. They're an evil group of people. They're sick, they're deranged, and we're taking care of it. And I want to just thank these
Yeah, you're supposed to.
crime fighters that are with us today. Thank you. It's really
Crime fighters, thank you, Cape Crusader.
Attorney from Nevada, Nick Tutanich, the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia, Zach Terwilliger, obviously you know the Director of the FBI, Matt Albens of the ICE, Mike Carvajal of Bureau of Prisons. You might ask why the Bureau of Prisons,
because they operate out of the prisons.
They do like to try to operate out of prisons, and we have.
I mean, anybody with FX in their cable package knows this shit.
To make sure we collect intelligence in the prison system. And then
we're certainly not collecting any of it around there.
Lombardo of ETF.
As a matter of fact, all those folks should leave right now in case any of his idiocy leaks all over them.
Tim Shea of DEA. And of course, you know the Secretary of DHS, Chad Wolf.
It's like central casting. If we forgot one person.
It's like central casting. Nobody gives a shit what anybody looks like. Can they do the job?
The head of this program is John Durham Jr.
You forgot who he was for a second. He's standing on the other side of the room because those guys don't want a picture with him. What's happening?
From the East.
Or is he just there to help with the poster board?
District of New York. Who,
Thank you, Natalie.
Spent, how many years?
It's going. It's still uploading, but it's taking a long time. It's a lot.
I've been in the office 15, but I've been doing MS-13 for 10 years.
10 years. On long.
Right. Oh, he's been after MS-13 for 10 years. So this is the culmination of those efforts. Were the people that what's his name killed, the MS-13 dude, Alexei Sayez, were the people that he killed in like 10 years ago? When was this?
Island, which is one of the hotbeds of MS-13 activity, or at least was.
Good luck, Jim. Good luck. That's really great. So important. It's like central casting. People are like central casting.
What? Nobody says that.
You guys got nice suits on. You look like you're all from Dragnet.
You're going to do a great job, and we appreciate it. And we will be meeting you in a similar vein, but a little different subject next week, and that concerns our cities. And again, people that have lost control of some of our great cities. We're going to straighten things out. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, so the dude who they got killed, it's in Long Island. He murdered these two Brentwood high schoolers, Nisa Mickens, who's 15, and Kayla Cuevas, in September 2016. So basically, as far as finding out who did it, investigating it, didn't come online for a couple of months. He was president when they actually go, okay, yeah, we've tracked it up to this guy. Law enforcement's been working on it that long. And yeah, he was indicted in March of 2017 for the January 28, 2016 killing of Michael Johnson, the April 29, 2016 killing of Oscar Acosta, September 13, 2016 killing of Cuevas and Mickens, the October 10, 2016 killing of Javier Castillo, the October 13, 2016 killing of Dwayne Stacks, the January 30th, 2017 killing of Esteban Alvarado Bonilla. So they were on this dude's trail for a long time. He got indicted March of 2017. Hi, Rose. Durr. Again, this is all a distraction. This is literally like the normal workings of law enforcement. And they've been on this dude since the day. Christopher Lee Charlemagne Memorial Fund to keep his adorable foster kitties giggles. Look at the aw. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
You talked about taking over cities earlier this week. Is that what next week's announcement is about?
You'll be seeing next week. We'll have a conference next week, and we'll.
Oh, it's going to be a press conference next week. We're going to take over American cities, because nothing says freedom and states' rights and the fight against federal overreach and big government like the president single-handedly ordering soldiers into the streets of American cities. Sorry, Democrats are the totalitarian fascists who want to control everything from the top down? What?
Tell you in great
freedom who?
Detail, but it's something that I think at this point the American people want to see.
No, we don't.
They've been run very poorly.
No, we want junk guns that are being dumped into the streets gone. We want some sort of limitation on ammo purchases and tracking those shipments better so we know where all these bullets are going before they end up in kids. But we don't want soldiers on street corners or marching down the middle of the street, shooting citizens extrajudicially because we're tired of waiting.
Cities, whether it's Seattle, where we were getting ready to go in and they decided to go in, and that's good.
They went in the day after the murders happened. That was the last straw. It had nothing to do with your decision. There were 2 people shot in there. By the way, we are anti-Chop, anti-Chaz in this situation, and that includes you, Portland, you jackasses. Join society. We had anarchy before. We had the Wild West. It sucked. People died of infection. Babies died. Posses lynched and murdered people. You don't get to start over because you don't understand.
Minneapolis, where we had the National Guard go in, and as soon
after Terrence Floyd came out and said his brother wouldn't want any of this violence and said everybody to hold up the peace sign, and they did, and all the violence stopped that day.
As they did that, we straightened that mess out. They should have been able to do it locally with their police.
They did.
Police are good. They were told not to do anything.
They were told not to open fire on the crowd.
Or many other cases. We're doing a great job in Portland. Portland was very rough, and they called us in, and we did a good job, to put it mildly. Many people in jail right now. But we have other cities.
How do we know? How do we know they're in jail? How do we know they haven't been just snatched off the street by people dressed like soldiers in Desert Storm gear?
That are out of control. They're like war zones. And if the city isn't going to straighten
there is no difference between chaos and anarchy.
Out of local politicians, or in this case, I don't say this for political reasons, they're all Democrats. They're liberal, left-wing Democrats.
Yeah, they're also the biggest economies in the country, the most productive, the most creative, the most inventive, and the most successful.
And it's almost like they think this is going to be this way forever. Where in Chicago, 68 people were shot and 18 died last week. We're not going to put up with that. We're not going to put up with that. So
well, then stop the junk guns.
That's for our next discussion. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Mr. President, your former attorney
get along very well with Dr.
Are you okay with the
I get along very well with Dr. Fauci. What do you mean you don't have shouting matches? Because you certainly don't take him seriously.
Well, that's Peter Navarro. But I have a very good relationship with Dr. Fauci. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, let's go. What about Dr.
Yeah. The Democrats that you're talking about were elected to their position. Yeah, it's not impressive when the country has soldiers on every street corner. That's not a good sign. It's not a sign that you're winning when you're in a position where you have to snatch people off the street by soldiers in unmarked vehicles that don't look like official vehicles and with no markings on them that show they are official representatives of us as a country. Just ridiculous. Hi, Melinda. This is just embarrassing. And the idea that somehow this is going to be from his perspective, anyways, a win for him electorally. I just don't get why in the world he thinks Republicans are going to side with this stuff if they have. I mean, because I don't doubt there's some right wingers who think this stuff is cool or support it. But there, I mean, within the context of this, again, this goes to like the vaccine stuff. Is it going to be right wingers and Republicans who are going to line up behind a military truck in the parking lot of a Walmart to get a shot of an untested, brand new vaccine? Really? No problem, Michelle. Fear not. Fear not. That was totally good. So the same thing with like, who does he think he's appealing to? Oh, thanks, Templeton. It's all the wig wearing I've been doing. I just put all my wigs away from the shoots that I've been doing. So, yeah. Yeah. If you look at like the MS-13 thing or whatever, on a normal law and order kind of thing, it's not that out of question that a president or an administration of any sort boasts about criminal arrests that they've done or big boatloads of drugs when they come across one particular tanker and it was just packed to the gills with cocaine and they managed to make a bust. You do that. You go, we didn't let this one slip, but we won this, right? Which liberal is willing to try an untested vaccine? I'm guessing there will be more liberals who, with reassurance, medical professionals in the CDC, are pro-vaccine, is all I'm saying. In a poll, only 63% of the GOP supports Trump. So yeah, it's a huge switch. Barham, I see you. Amy, yes, I did. Thank you so much. Big hug. So yeah, the Sexy Liberal show is going to be off the chain. It's such a weird. I just don't see how he thinks long term, especially Republicans are going to go. Yeah, that's what we need is a situation where, well, yeah, I can't think of any situation where Republicans long term are going to be excited about the idea that if there's a Democratic president who gets in at any point in the future, or even somebody who's less right-wing than Donald Trump, that they will have the ability to institute some sort of overwhelming political force into an American city against the wishes of the mayor, the governor, the local officials, and the citizenry even. Why we vote. It's so anti-democratic. It's insane. And again, I don't know how he thinks. Yeah. Here. Let's see if I can go to this one. This is Trump talking to Chris Wallace.
But let's go.
All right.
Get me the charter, please. Right. Because they want to defund the police, and Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
Look, he signed a charter with Bernie Sanders.
It says nothing about defunding the police.
Oh, really? It says abolish. It says defund. Let's go.
All right.
Get me the charter, please.
All right.
Get me the charter, please. Get me on a plane and get me out of here. Oh, God. I want to see that whole interview. We'll do that whole one. I promise. Just the amount of lies is just pathetic. And here's the thing. It's one thing to feel like you're conservative and you believe on some level in conservative principles or whatever, but that's not what this dude is. Trump is just a clown. And if you follow him around, it speaks more to how just mentally weak and willfully ignorant and how flexible your morality is. Because you just don't care. I mean, it's one thing to have these principles, but he's not the guy. He doesn't care. He's selling something for his own benefit. Like, he's gonna fight. Oh, God. Let's just, I want to watch that. This is a Fox News interview. Look at this.
Because they want to defund the police, and Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
Look, he signed a charter with Bernie Sanders.
By the way, he does the whole, like, this is, I'm stopping you body language. Okay, I stop and I put you down. I stop and I touch your off button. I stop and I push. It's so... No, what you're saying, I'm pushing back against, like, the body language is so infantile.
Nothing about defunding the
Oh,
police.
really? It says about...
Oh, really? It says, look, you know how many things I read?
It says, let's go.
All right. Well,
Get me the charter, please.
All right.
So that led to a very interesting exchange where he had his staff go out and get the highlights from that 100-page compact that the Biden team and the Trump team, rather the Biden team and the Sanders team had signed, and he went through it and he found a lot of things that he objected to that Biden has agreed to, but he couldn't find any indication, because there isn't any, that Joe Biden has sought to defund and abolish the police.
Because they
yeah.
the police and
No, yeah, because that's not Biden. Like, just goofy. Oh my God, it's just embarrassing. Like, I'm embarrassed for his supporters at this point. Like, it's, like I said, it's one thing to go, we need a strong border, we need America first, I believe in putting our priorities as a nation ahead of everything. Like, that's a legitimate gripe, and as far as, you know, populist messages go, fairly sound. But he's not the delivery system for that. He's an authoritarian creep. Russians put bounties on our soldiers' heads, and he hasn't done a thing about it because he owes Vladimir Putin $600 million. He owes the Chinese $300 million. He's never had a day of profit in his life. For Christ's sake, get over yourselves. All the maggots and Trumpsters who zing by here and like, liberal, libturds, you guys. There's no winning. There's no point where that lands on me or has any effect on me or anybody in the chat. Like, it would, you're almost operating as if he's a functional politician with capabilities in a position of power. He's not. And he doesn't care about you. It is unbelievable. I mean, I guess it's not. You know what? I'm starting to use his language. Unbelievable. It's completely believable. There was a Jonestown. Of course there are Trumpsters and maggots. But he doesn't give a shit about you. This is all about the buildings he's going to have after he leaves office. This is ego. He's lying. He has never made a dime in his life. He lives off of debt. He'd have never gone anywhere if his father wasn't a multimillionaire when he was born. Oh my God, it's embarrassing. And like, I know you want somebody to believe in, and I know you feel aggrieved, and I know you feel like the system's against you somehow. And if you have a legit gripe in that area, I'd love to work it out with you. But because I don't think I'm necessarily your enemy when it comes to you trying to, you know, find some economic foothold for yourself and your family, certainly, or have a safe community to grow up in, or good schools, clean water, clean air. Like, these are not the parts of you know, policy positions that traditionally politicians differ on. It's just on how to approach it. But he's just, it's embarrassing. And I almost feel bad I feel bad for some of you who've been suckered by it. Maybe you're waking up to it. Maybe that's what the 62% number really speaks to. You know, I know a bunch of people took a chance on him,
or are so off the charts afraid of one issue or another, usually immigration, that you're willing to let him do whatever he wants as long as he handles that problem. He's your pit bull. You'll let him shake the baby as long as he doesn't bite the mailman who's delivering your fentanyl. It's ridiculous. So, I don't think the trolls left. I think they just recess into their, they just turtle out of fear. Because all the projection that they end up doing on Democrats especially are going to come for you and they're just going to turn loose chaos in the streets. You're like, have you seen what this asshole came up with? Who gets rid of a pandemic response team as a management professional dealing with a country as big as ours that's completely engaged in the entire world economy, is one of the greatest travel points in the world? Who gets rid of a pandemic response team to save $23 million when the cost of losing it is $6 trillion? $6 trillion. We have dumped more money on this economy just to keep us with 25 million unemployed, and it's still not going to be enough. We're going to have to do it again. Then we dumped on the entire Iraq and Afghanistan wars. This is what, 6 times? It is 3 times the bailout for 2008, which took 6 years to dole out in 8 weeks. Anybody who just rolls in here and dumps Trump 2020 and thinks that's going to do anything clearly is being paid to just do this in chat rooms. Get a real job. Pitiful. Pitiful. Daniel wants to know, why would Trump go through this day in and day out? Because he owes $900 million to countries who want him to lower our standing in the world. Because he is going to enrich himself with property after he leaves. What are you talking about? You think he does this out of charity? This dude's never done a charitable thing in his entire life. He can't even he and his children can't operate a charity because they pilfered it to buy paintings of himself and pay his own legal bills. Oh my God, this is like so sad. And the maggots that like show up and think they're making a point. Bless your broken little hearts. Go get a real hero or be one yourself. Get your shit together. All right, I got to sign off and finish. I got to make sure this upload happened. You guys are awesome. I will talk to you later. Peace and be wild. I'm going to do that whole tomorrow for radio, or late, maybe after or before Sexy Liberal. I might do that whole Chris Wallace interview. That should be a party. But let's see. Hold on. There we go. There we go. I got to take off. Take care, everybody. Be well. Bye.
Once it was reluctantly aroused. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused, but we got it aroused.
I stink. Oh, it stings so bad. I stink. Oh, ouch. I don't think your Russian to English translating dictionary, I think it's outsize weighting the words. I'm just saying they're not hitting the way you want.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but 2 things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
We're honored to have with us today our amazing Vice President, Mike Pence, and his wonderful wife, Karen. You have nobody guarding your potatoes. A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua. A lot of very bad things are happening in Nicaragua.
I was thinking of the immortal words of Socrates, who said, I drank what?
And you know, when you say per capita, there's many per capitas. It's like per capita relative to what?
To be a moron. To be moronical. An imbecile.
Guy talk!
I am a HAL 9000 computer.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.
He's you real nice. If I didn't have puke breath, I'd kiss you.
I'm a land farmer, motherfucker!
I'm rich and I'm dead sexy.
Hail to the king, baby.